Youth sports, the thing in which parents go and charge umpires and coaches of opposing teams throwing sucker punches. You guys have been doing a great study on this. I wish we could have done our magazine project, but due to COVID-19, this is what we're doing. Before we get into our guest speakers, here's a real quick reminder. There are two groups that still need to turn in their immigration PowerPoints. Please get those in before we leave for spring break, which is in just a couple days, so stay strong. And I hope that you have a great spring break. Now, let's go ahead and go into our guest speakers. We got two, just COVID style. Enjoy.
And now, Sociology Today, with your host, Chad Waggoner.
All right, guys, we are here joined by two guests, Mr. Rick Browning and Coach Duggins. Rick Browning, you guys have seen some of the basketball games here at Trinity. Main reason why you see him in a lot of games, though, is he's the assigning secretary of the 6th and 7th regions, the KHSAA. In that role, he's responsible for recruiting, training, repainting, and assigning officials for all of our middle school, freshman, JV, and varsity level games in the entire Louisville area, which is in total 3,074 games in a year. Before he took on this role, Rick was a high school basketball and baseball official for 30 years and a graduate of Trinity High School in 1973. Thank you, Rick, for joining us.
You're welcome. Look forward to the class.
We also have with us Coach Duggins. Many of you know Coach for Trinity's Associate AD. Coach is also a Trinity graduate in 2004. Coach Duggins joined our staff full-time in 2015, and he's currently as the Associate AD. He works closely with Trinity's cross-country, golf, bowling, swimming and diving, and baseball teams, as well as was a long-time coach here for the baseball Bucks. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right, guys. So what we've been talking about is youth sports and the involvement parents have. And so my first question to you fellows is this: as an official and as a coach, what are the biggest challenges that you guys find when it comes to parents in the stands?
I'll take that one first.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest challenges as a coach in terms of managing parents in the stands, I think is making sure that parents understand as best as possible what our values are as a team. If we can get them on board with what our values are as a team, then hopefully we can get them on board with, how to act, doing the right thing. That's something that as a coach, I try to preach to my players as often as possible is we're men of integrity, we're men of character, we're men of faith. These are our values. This is what's important to us on the field and off the field. And communication is important too, because if I'm only communicating that to my players, that's good. But what would be great is if I'm also communicating that with the parents. And I can't necessarily rely on the players to always relay that to the parents. So what does that mean? That means that I have to get in front of the parents face to face. I have to communicate with them daily or weekly via email, just so that they're hearing that message over and over. And in my experience, the more that I can put that message out there, the better behavior that I have from parents in the stands. It's not perfect, but I think it's more manageable that way. And that's I've found that to be, my experience. It's different for other people, but that's how it's been for me.
Rick, as an official?
From an official standpoint, I'm always teaching and have taught the officials to ignore fans and or parents, and more times than not, the fans have an involvement, so they are a parent or an uncle or what have you. That being said, in today's world, we're now training our officials to have their head on a swivel, to understand that parents are there, and it's a more volatile society than it was 15 years ago. parents are now more likely to come out of the stands and say something to an official, a parent, a coach. And so we have to be able, I guess the term is defend ourselves, to be capable. We never want our officials to speak to parents. We never want them to have eye contact with them. But we are training our officials now to make sure they're aware of what the parents are saying, what the fans are saying.
What both of you guys are hitting up on is, in essence, one, educating, coming from a coach's perspective, educating your parents and your athletes what the expectations are, and two, in essence, for your officials, educating. But there are going to be possible circumstances. I have shared with you 2 videos, and so just to include that in this discussion, and the guys will have a link to seeing these 2 videos as well. We have one video in which we see a group of parents actually get into a brawl with each other, and the second video in which we have a coach attacking an official in an ice hockey game. So let's go with you, Coach Duggins, first. Let's talk about the parent brawl. How would a coach need to respond, and what should our society do when we start seeing parents getting in situations like this?
To your first point, what should a coach do when he sees something like that? I don't think that I would interject. I don't think that I would run up in there and try to break something up between adults because of where my proximity is to my players. I think my job at that point is to be a steady force and a calming force around my players. If I leave and go up and try to get into that and try to break people up, I'm kind of leaving my players behind, and they're looking at each other like, what do we do? What's going on? They're frightened, they're scared, they're confused. So, luckily in that situation, there was a fence, a dugout between the players and the fans. But when you look at something like that, I look for what the reactions are from the players when I watch that video. And a lot of it was confusion and just, a couple of them were just frozen where they were standing and watching this unfold. In terms of, how that, to your second point about just that type of behavior in society, I think with social media and technology, those things are captured on film more often now. Does that mean that they're happening more than they used to? I don't know, maybe. But there's more evidence of it nowadays anyway. So from a societal standpoint, you just don't want to see that type of behavior. And as a coach, I hope that I'm in a situation where my fans are the ones doing that, where I'm coaching the game and I look up and I see that happening. That's a nightmare. But I'm curious to hear from Mr. Browning and his perspective on that too as an official.
Well, Coach, the first thing that I saw when I watched that video was there was a young lady, number 3, I believe was her number, and her reaction was almost terrified. Was her parent involved? I'm sure that they were in some way, shape, or form, but I think in this particular case, she was scared, and I think that fear is something that no student athlete should ever. The fear of losing, I think, is maybe the only fear you should have. But the fear of your father or your mother getting in an argument or a physical altercation with somebody else is not a fear that you should ever have on the floor or on a basketball court. So that the first thing I saw was that young lady, and the coach did a wonderful job of consoling her that particular time. Regarding how we should handle it, or how I teach guys to handle it as officials, we would do the same thing as if it were a fight on the floor. We're not to go in and put hands on kids or coaches. Officials are targeted in lots of cases. So consequently, our thing is to stand back, take names and numbers, and we let the coaches and the administrators get in and take care of their side of the altercation. So if you would, Trinity would handle their players, coaches, and fans. and Seneca would handle their players, coaches, and fans. So that's what we're taught. And to stand back and take numbers, we have an incident report on the KHSAA website, which forces us within a 24-hour period to send an incident report into the KHSAA, letting them know that we had a fight in the stands. It involved Trinity and Atherton parents, or Trinity and Seneca parents. We don't know who they were, but certainly there would be film of it that they would be able to look at. We're not a judge and jury. We're just reporting the facts. So that's from that standpoint, that's what we would do.
And what, Rick, would you do when you, or how do you instruct your officials when you see something like in the video where a coach leaves his bench and physically has an altercation with the official, such as in that hockey youth?
Well, that's a great question, Coach. And I'll tell you, first of all, and there's a difference too, understand this, in a school activity, which has the KHSAA umbrella under it, and a summer activity, which does not have. During the KHSAA, for example, if a coach comes off the bench, he is ejected automatically, and he has to serve a suspension of 3 ball games. He has to pay a fine to the KHSAA. So there are restrictions that will keep a coach from doing this. In most cases, you find this kind of very harsh activity happening in the AAU summer, and I don't want to. They're great organizations. Don't misunderstand this, but there are the one thing they do not have is they do not have administration. They do not have security there to curb that. Therefore, it leaves the inmates running the asylum, so to speak. And so kids, players, coaches, adults, fans, there's no guidelines for them. So at that particular point, they can be and do whatever they want to do because there's no police, so to speak. When I say police, I mean policing of that.
Right. And as Coach Duggins would account for, like when you go to a Trinity athletic thing, you're going to find at least 1 of 2 athletic directors there. You're going to have administration there, especially for a bigger game or more of a rival game. You're going to have at least 1 police officer there. So there is a presence of like policing in essence, you can say, whereas with rec leagues, those are just typically not there. Do we think, or would you guys say, from your experiences, both as coach, AD, and as an official, is it maybe that we're seeing some of this get involved because parents are spending so much money on youth sports? I mean, they're starting. Our guys read an article where parents are paying $175 an hour for private coaching. They're spending on travel team. It's $10,000 to $20,000 a year for a travel team kind of thing. So is it maybe parents are feeling like they're entitled to have their voices heard, and that's why they're interjecting on for coaches and officials?
Yeah, thank you. I think so. Yeah, I think there is some entitlement. If if I pay $2,000 to have my car fixed at a body shop, I believe I'm entitled to have that fixed the way that it's been explained to me that it's going to be fixed. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but I just think about, what are you getting are you getting your money's worth? And that's what I try to tell, because I do coach a summer team and I've coached a high school team in different seasons. So I see both sides of it where the expectations are a little different. The environment's different. And one is where you have different families and different players from different schools and different parts of town coming together on a summer team. So you've got different personalities, but some private school, some public school. And then one where you've got the other part of where I've coached is it's just Trinity baseball players. So the costs are different. The attitudes are a little different from the parents. And I think that whole outlook on structure and security that Mr. Browning touched on, when you combine those things, I think the entitlement is different. I think, for instance, I've had situations where parents have been upset because on the summer team, they think their son should be playing more. And I have to explain to them, like, look, it's not based on the price that you pay to join the team. It's based on your son's attitude and effort. And their stance is, well, no, it shouldn't matter. I'm paying the same as everybody else. He should play just as much as everybody else, if not more. So juggling that can be difficult sometimes. So I've got to do a lot of planning to make sure, and a lot of communication to make sure that those guidelines are upheld and that I'm very clear and transparent on what's expected. With Trinity, it's like, well, the best man's going to play, no matter what. So that's a long answer for a short question, but I think there's a lot of entitlement there. There usually is when we're dealing with money. So.
Rick, I mean, as officials, I mean, you think that might be a reason why some parents feel like they should challenge a call, challenge a ref's position of the game?
No question. It goes back really kind of return on investment. The parent does have X number of dollars invested into this, and I think that they want to see the return on investment be big. Most of the parents have their child, in my opinion, most of the parents have their child involved in those kind of organizations because they believe their child can get a scholarship, or which obviously would be a great return on investment. If their child gets a scholarship to Pikeville, University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, obviously that's going to be X number of dollars that they do not have to pay in tuition, board, room, things of that nature. It could be a heck of a financial windfall, if you would, for them. At the same time, they're wrong in their assumptions. That they're obviously, we have as parents, we have our biggest responsibility is to teach kids about life, and that's winning and losing. And Coach Duggins hit on it a while ago that at Trinity, the best kids play. And very few people, there's only one I can think of from Trinity High School at this particular point that is on under a professional contract, and I think that's Reggie Bonifant at this particular point. We've had some tremendous athletes at Trinity High School, basketball and baseball and football, tremendous athletes. At the same time, they're not making money doing this. They are doing something else. They're in investments, or they're working at car dealerships or what have you. So your if you would, your investment in your child is more from a intellectual standpoint than it should be from a monetary standpoint.
Mm-hmm. So does, with people putting so much money involved and in essence giving some of these parents a sense of entitlement, which we're all agreeing that might be a thing, is there a fix for youth sports, or does youth sports actually need a fix?
In my opinion, the fix comes regardless of sports. The fix comes about everything that we should do. We should lead with doing the right thing, and it comes in the way that when the kids get up in the morning, the way do we help them do their chores? Are we with them 100%? Are we helping them with their schoolwork? Is there a difference between an A and a D? Do we understand that? Do we understand the teachers? And I'm going old school now, Coach. When I brought up home a bad mark from a teacher, when I was at Trinity High School, my parents were all over me. Now, if a student brings home a bad mark, normally speaking, the parent's going to contact the teacher and say, why aren't you teaching him better? I know he studies so much. So the onus is on, they're pointing a finger somewhere else. When in essence, in my opinion, it should be pointed right back to the person who's the parental soldier, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Coach?
Yeah, I think we have to, as adults, we have to lead by example. And in my experience, that means, I think a lot, it goes right back to our school motto and being a man of character and a man of faith. And if I expect that of myself, then my hope is that my players see that. I want to be a good role model for them. It's hard to control everybody else. I know that I can control what I do. I can control my thoughts and my actions. And so I've been charged as a Trinity coach and an AD and a teacher to set a good example. And how do I do that? Well, it's behaving properly, communicating clearly, being a man of character and a man of faith, and having integrity and doing the right thing. So my hope is that I can teach those things to my students, my players, to those around me that I work closely with. And Mr. Browning made a good point about just doing the right thing. And if we can do that as a society, then I think that we can eliminate a lot of these instances, like some of the videos that we saw, where people are just making bad decisions and letting emotions get the best of them. We need to take a step back and understand that these are athletic competitions. It's not life or death. That our officials are human beings. That they're not machines programmed to make the right call at the right time every time, and to just take it easy and relax, and enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the camaraderie, enjoy the just the beauty of the game itself, and just take it little by little, and not go into a game with such high expectations that these referees, these officials, these umpires have better get the right call right every time. If I do that, I'm setting myself up for failure as a fan, because I know that it's not going to happen every time. So just take it with a grain of salt and live and let live,
Well, Coach, I mean, I think you said something that was important. It is just, you got to keep in mind, it is just youth sports. And, even if a team wins like a league championship or something, that trophy that kid wins 10 years from now, it's going to be in a shoebox in mom's closet. It's no longer on the mantle or anything of that sort. It's really something that's going to be placed in a shoebox. But yet we're pretending, or putting the emphasis of, in essence, that is a priority right now, and it must be accomplished. We've thrown some parents underneath the bus here recently throughout this conversation. So as we close, let's come up with, what is the good things that parents do in the stands? I don't want us to say that this is just a negative. There is a lot of positives. So what are the pros of parents being in the stands?
In my experience, I've seen, I've coached in games where the school that we're playing has very few fans in the stands. And it's a lot of, obviously the majority of our schedule is composed of teams that are local in our region, in our county, and in neighboring counties. And when I see that, it's discouraging. And now as an AD, I see it in other sports too. These other competitions that I attend, basketball games, football games, you look across and you see hardly anybody in the stands, and it makes me wonder, where are the parents of these children? Where are the family members at? Why aren't they here? That's just something that I'm not used to. And to say that I'm blessed to have grown up in an environment where I've had good support from my parents. And I've been on teams that have, it's been similar situations. So I think there's the positives of having parents in the stands. Biggest positive is moral support. And we can talk all day long about the negatives, but there's been really good positives in my experience with not just having them in the stands, but having them support me. And as a coach, I've got to be open. I've got to be likable to a degree. If I expect help from parents, I have to be willing to accept that help, and I have to be someone that communicates well. And I need help with things that are on the back end, like meals between games and banquets at the end of the year and this and that. Not the X's and O's, but that's my take on it.
The support, yeah. Rick, you're constantly observing parents and family members in the stand. So, we've talked about their negatives, but there are good. So what's the good that you see in the stand?
Absolutely. In 33 years, my son is now 30 years old. He played, obviously, youth sports, every football, baseball, basketball. And he wasn't the best athlete. At the same time, it was important to me as a parent to make sure that he learned how to lose. that he was a very gracious loser and understood that put his hand in the hand of the guy that just beat him and said, "Hey, good game," and mean it. At the same time, there's a way to be humble and learn how to win and learn how to be humble in winning. And it's a parent's responsibility when they take that child off the floor or while the game's going on, that when the bad call is made, and I can tell you as an official of 30 years, there's never been a game that I officiated that I didn't miss a call. The game is too fast. Basketball is too quick of a game for me not to miss a particular, whether it be a block charge, whether it be a walk, whether it be a double dribble, a foul. So there'll not be that. I'm not a perfect guy, nor are any of the parents perfect, but where we can be better is by making sure that we are teaching the child what's the important thing, and that is that in life, you're not going to win every time. And you've got to be able to combat that loss, learn from the loss, and come back on the winning end in a different way. So, but the parents that I've seen in most cases do a great job. And understand this, I go back to the point that in high school athletics that have the KHSAA umbrella underneath of it, Trinity does a wonderful job having administrators there, having police officers there. When there are unsupervised or unpoliced activities going on, to me is where you find the biggest problems.
Well, fellas, thank you guys for joining this discussion. I mean, it's we're in a new world right now with online learning and watching reruns of sports and things of that sort. So the good thing about watching reruns of sports is you know what the play is going to be called, and you know how the official's going to handle it because you've already seen it. Rick, Sean, thank you so much. You guys stay safe. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. We've enjoyed it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. You guys stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Coach Duggins. Thanks, Mr. Browning, for being a part of this discussion. Guys, here's one little thought for you from a unique coach's perspective.
Season? Yes. Our goals, no, not even close. Our goals are, listen, our goals are to hit dingers. Everybody better have their eyes on me. Eyes on me, Rylan. Hit dingers. Disgrace the pitcher's family. Make the other players cry and stomp their butts into the ground. Does everyone understand that? Does everybody understand that? Look, fellas, look. There are two types of people in this world. There's two types of people in this world. There's winners and there's losers. And just so that we're clear, every time we step on this field, our goal is to be a winner. And if your dad has said, oh, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, just as long as you have fun, well, I hate to say it, your dad's a loser. Okay? So let's get our hands in. That team's pretty good, but we are gooder. So let's go gooder on three. Let's go gooder on three. Here we go. Hands in. Hands in. Hands in. Come on, talk to your English teacher here. Gooder on three. 1, 2, 3. Gooder!
Fellas, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. You've been awesome this whole semester. I wish we were in a class together, but we'll figure this out as we're doing. I'm looking forward to when we come back from spring break, trying something new with Microsoft Teams. You'll be hearing more about that here hopefully soon, but I think that will be able to connect us a little bit more. So until then, have a great spring break. Thanks for the work that you're doing. And as always, remain awesome, be nice, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Now, your moment of zen.
Wearing number 1 for the Los Angeles Traffic today is 9-year-old Tommy Douglas. Tommy has lived most of his life in the hospital after being born with a potato for a heart and will undergo a heart transplant surgery next weekend. He's about as big of a Traffic fan as they come, so in partnership with the Grant a Wish Foundation, both teams have agreed to come together and have Tommy run the first play of the game. And he got the handoff, and there he goes. Made a little cutback move, and it looks like he's going to go all the way. Look at him go. Wow. This is really one of those heartwarming moments in sports where you just... Oh! Oh, my God. That is not good.
Sociology Today was filmed in front of no studio audience because, well, we are self-quarantined.